Guten Tag! Heute mache ich Donauwelle, this delicious German cake with waves that look like the Donau River, or perhaps the colors of Snow White. I think it's a beautiful dessert, and I'm so excited to make my version of this classic. So I'll show you just how I make it. Okay, so to make the Donauwelle, first and foremost, I'm going to start by making the cake. So I have here a couple of eggs and some oil, and I'm just going to add them to my bowl, just like that. And then I have about half a cup of white sugar, and I'm going to add that to my bowl as well and whisk it all together until it's nice and blended, just like that. You could also totally use an electric mixer, but I'm a little old-fashioned, what can I say? Perfect, that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I have some thick yogurt. You could use Greek yogurt. I'm using Suzme yogurt. And then I also have my flour mixture. And to my flour, I'm going to add just a pinch of salt and also some baking soda and give it a quick stir. And now what I'm going to do is in rotations, partially add my flour and then add the other half with my yogurt. So I'll start with the flour, just blend it in and give it a whisk. And I love this batter recipe because it's super simple. This is the type of cake batter that is my go-to because I can make it in such a fly. We find out we have guests coming over last minute, then I can pop in a cake in the oven so fast, and that's what I love about this recipe. Okay, so now I'm going to add some of my delicious yogurt here. And I love baking with yogurt because I find that it makes a really moist cake, and I love the flavor of it. So, but if you didn't want to use yogurt, you could also use sour cream or quark, or even labneh would be really good. Okay, again, I'm going to add the flour mixture, the last part of that, and give it a whisk. And this cake, one of the most beautiful parts of it is that it has these beautiful layers, right? You have the beautiful layers of the white cake, of the chocolate cake, of the cream, and the cherries, and then of course the final chocolate topping. And it might sound laborious to make, but actually my version includes a few shortcuts, and I think it's going to be really good. So I'm just going to add in the rest of the yogurt, just like that, and give it another whisk. Beautiful. That looks so good. And one thing that I love about this cake is using fresh cherries. So I love to make it this time of year when cherries are in season because it tastes so amazing. Almost forgot to add my vanilla extract, so I'm just going to toss that right in, just like that. Give it another whisk. And now, in order to make the chocolate portion, I know you might be wondering, I'm going to divide the batter in half. So I have another bowl here. I'm just going to take it and just take half of my batter and place it in this bowl, just like that. So good. And now what I can do is take my delicious cocoa powder and add it right in. And I am gonna just thoroughly mix it with my spatula, but also my whisk because I want to make sure no clumps get in there. You know what I mean? So, and I'm using one of my favorite cocoa powders, so I would definitely recommend using something that you really like. Beautiful. And it smells so good. Love the feeling of whisking and baking, making a cake. You know that there's going to be a beautiful end in store. All right, that looks great. So I have my chocolate cake and I have my vanilla cake. Now it's time to start assembling. So good. Okay, so now that I have the batter for my Donauwelle ready, it's time to start making the layers. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with the vanilla cake and just pour it in an even layer on the bottom of my pan. And what I've done is I've lined my cake pan with parchment because it just helps with taking the cake out in the end. So you don't want to go through all the effort of baking it and then it's difficult to get out of the pan, you know what I mean? So we've all been there. So I'm just smoothing it out to the sides with my spatula, just making sure that it extends evenly, just like that, from the middle to the sides. And I'm just going to shake my pan a little bit and pound it. Now it's time to add the chocolate part. Ooh, so good. So I'm just going to mix it again, just gently, and add my chocolate. So what I will do is just take it and kind of just place it right on top, because I want to come back and be able to smooth it out. So I'm just taking it, placing it on top, just like that. This smells amazing right now. Just even before it's baked, the chocolate smells so good. Okay, so I'm actually gonna get out a butter knife just to help me spread it out, make it a little bit easier for myself. So I'm just gonna scrape my spatula to get all my batter off of there. Perfect, looks good. And then I'm just going to spread it out. Spread out the chocolate batter right on top. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to make sure that we have a distinct layer difference. And one of the most beautiful things about this cake is that on top of the chocolate part, we're going to put the cherries. And we don't push down the cherries, but naturally, as the cake bakes, the cherries will literally sink down into the chocolate cake and kind of create this beautiful wavy layer. This is wavy part one. The second wavy part is the chocolate on top, and you'll see what I mean a bit later. So, all right, that's looking good. Gonna get it all nice and smooth, chocolatey smooth. Just gonna get this one last corner here. And it really helps to use a knife, I find, even more so than my spatula, than my beloved spatula. But just the knife just really kind of helps create a little bit more of an even layer. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as close as we can get. You know what I mean? So, all right, move this right over. Very good. And also I'm also trying to create an even layer so that one side doesn't have a lot of chocolate where the other side doesn't have that much, because when we cut into the cake, you'll really see how beautiful it really is. So that's definitely really important in terms of presentation. This is a cake that you want to cut, which means it's a cake that we can taste. So now I have my delicious cherries. I worked so hard depitting these, but you could totally use jarred cherries. I just really love the black cherries, and they're in season and fresh and already sweet. So this is what I'm going to use. And yeah, basically I'm just gonna make a pretty little decoration. So just by placing them gently on top. And because I love cherries so much and I really want a bite of cherry to be in every bite of the cake, I'm putting a lot of cherries. But you could put as much or as little as you want. I think traditionally it's probably not as many as I'm using, but I realize that this is my version, my take on this beautiful classic. So I'm gonna keep going until I have my whole cake covered with cherries, and then it'll be time to pop my Donauwelle in the oven. So good. Okay, so I have layered all my cherries so nicely on my cake, and as you can see, it's packed full of cherries. Can you tell that I love cherries? So now time to pop this in the oven, let it bake until it's nice and done, and then will be time to add our German buttercream layer. It's gonna be so good. Stay tuned. Okay, so my Donauwelle has finished baking, and as you can see, it came out so beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is remove it from my pan and also remove it from the parchment. I am so glad that I used the parchment, because as you can see, it's coming off very easily. So that makes such a big difference, especially with this particular cake with the extra layers. So I'm just gonna gently remove the sides, just like that, and place it on my plate. So now it's time to start adding the delicious German buttercream. So to make the German buttercream, what I did is I started with making a pastry cream, and then I took some butter, about 250 grams of butter, and I whipped it for about 4 to 5 minutes. now to the butter, I'm going to add my pastry cream. And if you don't know how to make pastry cream, then I actually made a video on how to make pastry cream. So if you're interested, you can check that out. But it's super simple. It's pretty similar to making pudding. So actually, as a cheat to this recipe, you could totally just use pudding. So, all right, I won't tell, don't worry. So now what I'm going to do is just whisk together my butter and my pastry cream. So let's get whisking. Okay, so now that I've whisked it all together, I'm just also going to stir it together with a hand whisk just to kind of get a feeling for it. And it feels very good. So it's nice and light, and the butter, and the combination of the butter, whipped butter, and with the pastry cream, it's so good. So I'm actually just going to give it a taste test. Heavenly. So good. I'm a big fan of the German buttercream. So what I will do now is take my delicious buttercream and place it right on top of my cake. So just kind of place it in a dollop right in the middle, and then we'll work our way out to the sides. Just like that. Okay, that looks great, like a cloud. Now I'm just spreading it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect, yeah, because I really like the beauty of this cake, the different layers and the beautiful lightness of the buttercream. I think it's gorgeous. So, just like that. And already it looks so good. I feel like just like that, it could stay like this, and it would make such a beautiful cake for our... Okay, that looks great. So, as you can see, we have layer 1 of our Donauwelle. So now I have some chocolate that I put over a double boiler, and I added a little bit of oil. So now it's time to add my chocolate right on top. So to do that, I'm just going to take it and drizzle it right over, just like that. Oh my goodness, that looks beautiful. So good. I can't wait to try this because it just looks so amazing. And my eyes are definitely eating right now as we speak, so. Okay, so now I have it right on top, so I'm just gently just spreading it out to the sides here. Just like that. Wow, this looks so good. And if you didn't want to use chocolate, I'm using like a bittersweet chocolate on top just because I like the taste of it. It's not too sweet, and it's also not too bitter. That's bittersweet. But if you wanted to use Nutella on top, for example, I've heard of people doing that. But for me, I like it as the bittersweet. Oh man, this looks so, so good. I'm telling you, I think you're gonna love this cake. And for me, it's totally okay to have some of it drip over the edges. That's what makes it so beautiful. Perfect. That looks great. Now I'm gonna create my little waves. So in order to do that, I'm not getting crazy. I just have a fork, and I am just going to create the waves. Just like that, working my fork back and forth to create the waves for the wave cake, or the Snow White cake. Beautiful. That looks so good. I cannot wait to cut into this. And then, there we have it. Our beautiful, delicious, homemade Donauwelle cake. So simple and so good. So, thank you so much for checking out this recipe on how to make Donauwelle cake. I hope that you enjoyed it, and until the next video, I can't wait to see you next time. See ya, and guten Appetit!